You're listening to the Chords and Chrome show on lead pedal radio with DJ Bruce.
It's time for the Lead Pedal Radio Show with your host, Bruce Outridge. He's coming at you with 5K of high-definition, wall-to-wall internet streaming sound. Keep you on the white line, keep you rolling down the blacktop, flying down that big old road. He's got the hits, don't quit, the platters that matter, and the spins that win. So join us. We'll help you circumnavigate the concrete sea and actuate the asphalt alleyway. Now, here is your host, Bruce Outridge.
How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to another edition of Chords and Chrome. Tonight we are going to be talking about camaraderie on the road. This came to me for so many reasons. One being that I was just at the Woodstock Truck Show over the weekend, and people keep asking all the time, why do you stay in this industry? There's so many things wrong with trucking right now. Why do you stay? And I always say it's for the people. It really is. We've made so many friends over the years, done all that stuff. And so we're going to be talking about camaraderie on the road. We also have a special guest going to join us today. We've got some great music from our preferred artist of the week. And we also are going to bring on a new preferred artist of the month. So we got lots of stuff coming up for you. We're going to start with some of the memories. I think that's why we need to start. We're actually titling this one "Brothers and Sisters of the Highway" because that's exactly what this is, you know. And we're trying to make this show more about the nostalgia of the industry. Our sister station, Lead Pedal Podcast, that's where the business and careers and the education. This is supposed to be the fun side, the music and all of that kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to be doing. You know, trucking is like a family, and we keep telling people, don't get into this if you just think you're going to get a job or something like that. You really need to know exactly what you're getting into, and you'll stay. And we see it every time we go to the shows. Do you remember the time when drivers used to wave at each other? Do they still do that? If you're going down the road and the guy's coming the other way, do you still wave? Motorcyclists do that, because that's their own community. For truck drivers, we used to do that. We've been doing that for years. Remember the days when you stopped to help another driver? How much of that doesn't happen anymore? Same thing. Hey, French Bread's joining us. How we doing today? Yeah, and just things like flashing the headlights. Do people still do that? I had a guy do that to me in my van. Now that's camaraderie, okay? But I still do that. There's actually a switch on the dash for you to thank the other person. How many people do that? Now it's about getting cut off and all that kind of stuff. But back then, it was really, if you saw someone having trouble, you just got out and helped them. Those were the unwritten rules of the road. Those are the things we used to do without thinking about it. You just got out and helped somebody. Remember the CB radio? We talked about that in our last show. We did a whole show on the CB radio. That was extremely, extremely very cool. Some of the things, I still remember the handles, all that kind of stuff. Now we've got social media. We've got all kinds of stuff that it's supposed to be social, but when you think about it, the real social parts were the truck stops themselves. Remember the driver's counter? That's right. You go in there. It was actually neat because it was actually closed off to everybody else except professional drivers. That doesn't mean you couldn't sit somewhere else in the restaurant, but every truck stop had that. That was the professional drivers section. And when it started, because I remember being lots of the 76s, when it started, that was the time when the drivers, because they were in a hurry, you sat at the counter, you got faster service. You would, you could talk to other drivers if you want, because you're in the truck alone a lot of the time. So it was nice to get out there and just talk to someone. You got weather reports. How many times have you asked the guy next to you, so where are you coming from, and what's the weather look like that way? And you could trust the answer because that person had just come through there. We have crashes now left and right. People running into the back of road closures and accidents in the highway because they're not talking to each other. And I just talked with Phil Couch over at who owns the truck New Testament. We're going to have Phil on as our guest a little later in the show, but that is one of the things we talked about is that there's no more warning for the drivers. You went to a truck stop, and there's certain truck stops. Every truck stop had its own personality, I think. Before the chains came, you went to certain truck stops. Maybe it was the waitresses, maybe it was the food. How many people have told you, hey, I stopped at that truck stop because I saw lots of trucks there? They automatically thought that the food was the best because they stopped at that truck stop. What really was happening was either, I tell people, well, maybe they just had really good truck parking or other things going on. Remember, there's when I think of I didn't run really a lot of west, so I'm sure there's better ones. Walcott I was about the only one out west that I frequented once or twice. Most of my stuff was south or east. So when I look at, there used to be one, what was it called? The Green, it's out by Cleveland. Somebody please send me in that. You know what it is. Send me the name of that truck stop. It was called the Green something. It was in between Erie, PA and Cleveland. And once you got into Ohio, that one had a bar next to it. There's Bingo Bob's in Binghamton, New York. We all know that one. That was a legend. I remember when the girls from Bingo Bob's were on Oprah. That was like, wow. It didn't help that I was watching it with my wife and I said, hey, I know that one. That didn't go over well. I didn't do anything. I'm just saying I frequented Bingo Bob's before because the roadway next to it was the really cool part. And at 5 a.m, that place was packed. Everybody having breakfast on a Saturday. So, there was lots of good ones. Here in Canada, we had one called the 10 Acre. The 10 Acre is still there. The truck stop at a restaurant has changed, but that had those girls that worked there probably worked there for, I'm going to say 30 years. Like, it's like watching them grow up. And a lot of them were still there up until it turned into an IHOP, I think about 5 years ago or longer. But it was a great place. We had the Quebec tables. These were the tables that were in the middle, big circular tables. There was 2 big circular tables, and you didn't sit there. If you weren't from Quebec or part of that conversation, you didn't sit at those tables. We knew those were the Quebec tables. You'd go in at 7 o'clock. This place would be packed. It was just a little small roadhouse, but it would be packed and everybody just having a good time and everybody doing their thing, and some were heading east, some were heading west, whatever it was. But the truck stops, the tables were the big ones, the Quebec tables. I don't know which truck stop you thought has the best atmosphere. I could tell you one of the worst truck stops was on Long Island. You hear all of these stories, and one of the big ones were that I went into this truck stop. I had to pay $10 to get in there, and you walk in and everybody's sitting in this one room, and you look around and there's no TVs on the wall. Someone had stolen all the TVs. And then this is the camaraderie of the road. Someone stole all the TVs, and we're thinking, okay, here we go, just like they say. And then through the door comes this guy with about 30 pizzas in his hand, the pizza delivery guy. Nobody could decide what they wanted, so they all ordered a different pizza. By the end of the night, we were laughing, we were sharing pizza, we were sharing all kinds of stuff, and it was one of the best places to go. So that was one of those places that I think everybody, knew about, and it's one of those unexpected things. That's the kind of things that we had in the trucking community, the unexpected parts of finding friends on the road that you didn't know before you had it. Sharing directions. You could trust if a driver gave you directions in there. We never trusted the receptionist or whatever. How many of you had a little black book that you would just write down directions from other drivers, and you knew that was the gospel for your loads? You can get in there because if you called the company, they took you in through the front door and you weren't allowed there on a truck or something like that. Those are just some of the fun things that we had that I think were really, really special on the road. So we are going to talk a little bit more about camaraderie. We've got some great things coming up in the rest of the show. We've got Phil Coach going to be joining us for a fun interview I did at the Woodstock Truck Show with him about camaraderie on the road and exactly what we're talking about, what we need to do to rebuild the industry to what it was and the respect that it's needed. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. But let me ask you a fun little poll. What was the best thing that another driver ever did for you? Let us know in the comments. if as a driver ever helped you out? Did somebody ever stop just to help you change a tire or just to make sure you were okay, whether you were trucking or not, or whether you were just driving down the road? Did someone help you, another driver help you? For me, somebody picked me up when I was about to freeze in Indiana and head over to the truck stop. So that's when we had a real cold snap. Everybody was freezing out. My truck died a mile from the truck stop, and I was starting to wonder if anybody was going to stop. And then finally a driver did stop and checked on me and took me over to the truck stop. So, hey, and the other question I'd like to ask, because we don't have a whole lot, we don't have a trivia going on tonight, but we do have our rapid fire driver check has got a couple questions that we want to ask. So one thing is, what did another driver do to help you, for sure? And then if you were a rookie driver in the 70s and 80s like me, I started at the end of the 70s into the 80s, what was one of the unwritten rules that you were told? There was probably a lot of them. I know in the moving industry, they used to do a ton of stuff where they would, if you stayed in a hotel overnight, you would take all the furniture, pack it into the closet. So the maid came in the next day and found nothing in the room and wondered where all the furniture was. And it was just packed tightly, like if that closet was going to California. That was one of the fun things of the day. Anyway, if you are staying with us, we are going to be talking with Phil Couch. You know him. He's got that truck New Testament with the suicide doors. He was up here in Canada. We've got some great music from Tony Justice, because he's our preferred artist of the week. Joey Holiday. If you don't know Joey Holiday, he is a trucking artist, trucking musician as well. We play a lot of Joey's music here. He's got a ton of fun songs, and we're going to be playing some old ones there. And we've got some great old stuff to play for you. So we're going to get on with the show. If you are on our socials, then you want to check it out and make sure you join us on our Lead Pedal Radio Mixcloud account, because we are going to continue with the show. Thanks for watching. Here we go.
You're listening to the Chords and Chrome show on Lead Pedal Radio.